A jailbreak. John had been in jail for a year. All this time he'd been waiting for an opportunity to escape. One summer morning, he finally managed to break free. But it didn't go unnoticed. Several security guards started to follow John, and the man had to hide in a ladies' room. Look at the picture and try to figure out where in the John is. John's hiding in the third stall. He wouldn't have had enough time to get a pair of women's shoes. A caring friend. Larry called the police because he had some concerns about his friend Brandon. He said, "Brandon has recently returned from Chile and has been behaving strangely since then. I've just received a weird phone call from him. I think it would be better if you came with me." When the police officers picked him up, Larry gave them the address. He explained he'd never been there yet. Brandon rented the place soon after he came back from his trip. When they arrived at the house, everything was a mess inside. There was some paint spilled on the floor, and one police officer accidentally stepped into it. Larry noticed it. "How unlucky. Let me show you to the bathroom." After that, he immediately got arrested. Why? Larry said he'd never visited Brandon's new home before. Then how did he know where the bathroom was? A forest accident. Stephen called the police to report his valuables were missing. When the police arrived, the man told him his story. "I went on a camping trip alone. I had just got there and set up my tent when it started to rain heavily. I hurried to find some dry firewood. I left my bag with my wallet and all the documents inside the tent. When I came back, everything was gone." The police officers didn't believe Stephen and fined him for making a false call. How did they understand the man had lied? Stephen said he had set up the tent before it started to rain. But then, why was it wet inside the tent? A lost phone. Police Detective Liam was at a mall when he heard someone shouting. He rushed there and saw a stressed shop assistant and several people around. It turned out the shop assistant had found a smartphone and made an announcement. Now several people were claiming the phone belonged to them. One man said the phone must have slipped from his pocket. A woman argued it was her husband's device, and a teenager said the gadget was hers. Suddenly the phone rang and the shop assistant gave it to Liam. He glanced at the screen and immediately handed the phone to the man. How did the detective understand it was his device? Wife. That's what was written on the phone screen. A car accident. January was incredibly cold in the town, with temperatures falling way below zero. All the roads were covered with ice and snow. One day, a man called the police to report a car accident. A police officer arrived and was about to start an interrogation when he had a coughing fit. The driver opened his car and gave the officer a bottle of water. After calming down a bit, the officer began to ask his questions. "I parked the car near my house yesterday evening, but when I came back today, the hood was badly damaged," the man explained. "I know my neighbor was cleaning the roof. I'm sure he dropped some ice on my car and ruined it. I want to file a report." The neighbor who heard this conversation argued, "I cleaned the roof this morning, but your car wasn't here when I was doing it." The police officer figured out who was lying right away. Can you do the same? The car owner was plotting against his neighbor. If his car had been outside for the whole night, the water in the bottle would have been frozen. A missing dog. Jason agreed to look after his friend's dog while the guy was away. He fell in love with a cute little Pomeranian. But Jason's wife and kids didn't like the pooch. One evening, the man came back from work and discovered the dog was missing. Jason called the police. When they arrived, they started by questioning Karen, Jason's wife. The woman said she had been sleeping all day. Then the police officer asked, "And what were the children doing?" "They were playing in the yard. Then I told them to go inside and do their homework." Well. And now, tell me please, why did you kick out the dog?" How did the police officer figure out it was Karen? Well, the woman claimed she had been sleeping the whole day. But then, how could she tell the kids to go inside? A fishing trip. David was crazy about mountain climbing. It was his biggest passion in life. But his wife Jessica hated his hobby. She thought it was too dangerous. Once, David's friend Oliver invited him on an exciting rock climbing trip. David knew his wife would be against this idea, so he told her he would go fishing to the nearest lake for a couple of days. Jessica agreed, but asked her husband to send a photo of him fishing. Once David arrived at the foot of the mountain, he photoshopped a fishing photo and sent it to his wife. As soon as she saw it, she immediately realized it was a fake. How come? Jessica knew it was snowing outside. It means there had to be snow at the nearest lake, too. A hitchhiker. Chris was a truck driver. One Friday afternoon, he left Orangetown and was driving along the highway when he saw a man lying on the side of the road. Chris stopped and ran toward the man. After some time, he managed to bring the man around. His story was rather dramatic. He was a hitchhiker who tried to get to Orangetown, but halfway there, he had an argument with the driver who had picked him up and was thrown out of the car. The hitchhiker hit his head and lost consciousness. Now he was begging Chris to give him a lift to the town. Chris didn't believe the man's story and refused to help him. Why? The hitchhiker was lying on the right side of the road, but if he was going to Orangetown, he would have been on the left side. Lost in a jungle. Sarah got lost in a jungle, hence the title of this story. After wandering for hours, she finally came to a clearing with 3 narrow paths. It's always 3! Unfortunately, one of them was blocked by massive bushes with sharp thorns. The second was covered with trash and broken glass. And the third path was guarded by huge, scary-looking mantises. Which path should Sarah brave? The girl should choose the third path. Even though mantises look threatening, they're totally harmless. 3 staircases. Eric got lost in a museum. While he was trying to find a way out, it got late. All the doors were closed. Finally, he saw 3 staircases. Yep, 3 again. The first one was all covered in bizarre nettles with razor-sharp leaves and long spikes. The second had giant stinking flowers with a stench almost impossible to bear. And the third staircase was an impassable jungle of cacti. Which staircase should Eric choose? He should run down the second staircase. Even though the flowers are gross, they're relatively harmless. An epic rainstorm. Someone got into Matthew's house during a severe rainstorm and took a lot of expensive stuff. The man called the police. They came over and started to interview the neighbors. Nicole said she lived alone and worked from home. She was inside the whole day. Jerry explained he was a chef in an Italian restaurant. He came back from work only a half an hour ago. Sophia told the police officer she hadn't left home because she was ill. Who was the intruder? It was Nicole. She claimed she had been inside the entire day, but there was a wet umbrella in the corner. A confusing number. It's a 5-digit whole number. It reads the same forward, backward, and upside down. Its second digit is half of the third one. The fifth digit is the product of the first and last ones. And the sum of all the digits is 10. What number is it? It's 10801.